Hi guys, welcome back to the Martin League channel. Another pokes for you today and some more ponderings. Something that's been bugging me for the longest time and something that I've studied extensively, and that is the Western Front in the First World War. It literally makes no sense to man or beast. It made no sense to the men that were actually there at the time. They had a popular song, "We're here because we're here, because we're here, because we're here." No apparent meaning to any of it, but millions and millions of men dug. They dug in. They dug 800-mile long trenches from the coast of Belgium all the way to the Swiss border. And not only 800 miles, both lines for both sides, and then tunnels, dugouts, and even underground cities. Thousands of miles of tunnels under the Western Front. So can we just imagine for a minute that the nonsensical war that Britain joined because of who gives a fuck about Franz Ferdinand, because nobody even heard of Serbia and Franz Ferdinand before this time, yet we're dragged into a war where millions potentially die. Now, it really doesn't make any sense, the Western Front. It is blind stupidity. Even to this day, people, wonder why the hell this went on. 800 miles long trench lines, both sides, so thousands of miles of. They literally brought in miners from Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, New Caledonia, Canada, the Welsh miners from South Wales to dig massive underground bunker systems and even tunnels with mines underneath them. And they would even remove hills, literally move mountains. The diggers of the First World War. So let's just imagine that it's a cover story and that the powers that should not be were looking for something under this land. What if they were looking for existence of older technology from the world that was buried in the mud below old France and old Belgium in the lowlands? And what better way to get 1 million men digging? In fact, there was 5 million on the Allies, the British side, with the Australians and New Zealanders and Canadians, etc. But in all, tens of millions of people took part in the Western Front over the 4-year period. And what you find is under the Western Front, you find these. These were just unearthed recently under the Battle of the Somme. Apparently dug up by the French, but occupied by both French, British, and Germans. Mort de Champs, so I'm guessing something to do with dead people. But it says 721, I'm not actually sure if that's 720 Billies got killed. Oh dear. But the fact that 500,000 people were missing in action in the First World War, never to be seen again. So apparently this is under the Battle of the Somme. So what, the French in the Battle of the Somme, when they got like bombs going off and gas attacks and everything else, had the time to hew and dress ancient looking stone and lay tunnels. Is it a better explanation that this was there all along? Under the Battle of the Somme, there is old antiquity, guys. What if they found tech to advance everything? Just think about it. The technologies that came during the First World War. Oh my God, it was a quantum leap for the whole of humanity. We had machine guns, chemical weapons used for the first time, heavy artillery, tanks, advancements in medicine, like the first use of morphine over alcohol or ether, which they were using for anesthesia before that point. Mobile X-ray machines, thanks to apparently Marie Curie during this period. Hydrophones, where they were listening under the water for U-boats, came out in this time. And drones, pilotless aircraft, all came out of the 4 years of the First World War. Tremendous acceleration in invention. But after the First World War, It was a quantum leap from 25 years after the First World War to the Second World War. The whole world just came to being. It was night vision goggles, television, radar, jet planes, everything just shit out of nowhere after the First World War. What if, just like the narrative for, oh, they found Vimanas and existence of Anunnaki stuff when they went into the Afghan war, but maybe along those lines, they were under here finding stuff. Look at this stuff, guys. Look at these old walls. Let's just mag up. You know, it really does seem like old flat bricking here. And, you know, this looks like big, huge stone as well. And they've had a narrow gauge train that is able to go in here. And people who stayed there carved. This was the British Army, Lord Kitchener. Your country needs you. And they knew about stuff, the people who carved this out, because they got the Zyro in swords surrounded, or in a portal surrounded by two laurel leaves opposing one another. They know exactly what this place is, the people who made this interesting. And battles, Sebastopol, Montebello and Lorraine, and at the bottom, the bloody mess at Verdun. Terrible affair in Verdun in the First World War. Ludendorff's plan to make France bleed in an incredible attrition war. Now, that is what's happening on all the lines of the First World War. It's a bitter attrition war where it's just men go over the top, get obliterated, the other side come over the top, get obliterated, and it's thousands and thousands of men. It's wholesale murder and very little advancements. In the Battle of the Somme, which we're going to look at very shortly, the worst day in British military history, you won't even believe how bad they say it was. So if you look at all of this chapelage, all under the Somme, you can see the land, the light is coming through here. And look at these. That looks like stones. Certainly looks like dressed stones. And they've scutched it off with a French dragging tool to give it that mottled effect. But these are certainly blocks, large blocks. All under the Battle of the Somme. And then you see things outside like this of old knights and stuff. Are we sure these are not Templar caves? Maybe the Templars had these caves as well. The Templars definitely tunneled stuff. Look at the money pit, for example. That's attributed to the Templars. So what you find in the lowlands and the borders of France, Belgium, and Germany is extensive fortified lines. You have the Maginot Line that was apparently built in the 1800s, which looks pretty damn old from my eyes, and it goes for hundreds of miles. And opposite that is the Hindenburg Line, the German line, practically impregnable. Now, other inventions that showed up were, as I mentioned, chemical weapons. Gas was used, but barbed wire. Barbed wire was used for the first time, and mines, giant mines under hillsides, like what happened in Massini's Ridge, the first day of the Battle of the Somme, which we're going to look at very shortly. So a shell casing from the people that have been down here. Look at this stuff. Look at the size of them there. Really, really interesting that they got all of this under the Somme. So they're unearthing stuff all of the time from the First World War. These are Edwardian ladies. I can see that. Yeah, farmers that work in the fields of Flanders, they dig up bones all the time. The bomb squad are called out regularly for unexploded ordnance. Even after 150 years, that stuff still can go. And it's known to everybody in the region, under all of the First World War Western Front is cities, all dug out, billions of tons of earth that were excavated. Yeah, the soldiers did it, the miners did it, getting that mud out. So you had to get down below ground level because Flanders is pretty flat and you're going to get a bullet if you don't get out of the way. This is Germans. This is a member of the Valkyries, as you can see there. RJR 68, the Valkyries. So what the French said and the Belgians is that in their village, one day in the morning, the Germans would occupy, and by tea time, the British would be occupied. And it just went on like that, back and forth, back and forth. The Hampshires were there right at the start of the war, when things were pretty quiet. Things didn't get kicking off after the Christmas armistice of the Christmas of 1914-15. They had a game of footy in no man's land, but got in deep trouble. It's like, yes, we know that they're okay and they're practically us and they look the same, but they have better food and more money. Not that. You're supposed to shoot at them and kill them. You do realize that, don't you? And they're like, but they're so nice. It's like, that's not going to work. So this all under the Somme. And it's not only there, there's vampire trenches you can look up. There's documentaries about it, large expansive cities under the Battle of the Somme. You can see here the miners doing crimping. Basically, they go along and the enemy go along as well, digging tunnels and crumping, and then they here on the other side, the enemy, and then they put a charge in and then hide and then explode the tunnels. It was one of the most unfavorable modes of warfare in the First World War. They said it was absolutely terrifying. Here's a crumper. So he would listen, and on the other side of this wall, only inches away, could be a German, and he's doing the same with the stethoscope. And then you hear someone sneeze, and then he puts a charge into the wall and a wire, and then he runs around a corner, boom. It's called crumping. Everyone on that side is integrated. And this was tunnel warfare. Masses of tunnels all under Flanders. There today. So wouldn't it be a really clever thing to do, guys, if the powers that should not be thought of a way in the club, having a meeting? There's lots of stuff under Flanders. It's old antiquity, and we can guarantee that there's some sort of radiation coming from a certain area, and we think that there's some sort of machinery down there. But we're going to need a lot of men to dig it out. How many men? A couple of million. How long's the digging going to be? An 800-mile long trench, actually, thousands of miles of trenches. Really? Really? And then we can say it was a war while we're digging. Yeah, okay. Will anyone ask any questions? Well, the war isn't happening like this anywhere else. This is the worst place on earth. There's only the Eastern Front, Tannenberg, but they might have stuff too. Okay, I get it. So if you notice here, the Maginot Line, unbelievable, built by the French. And there's all these forts that are attached with Fort Dumas, very famous forts that fell, these ones here. But it's this long. But they left a gap, which, in the Skiffle plan, which was a pincer movement by a German general to come through the Ardennes and then encircle some of the British that were there at the time, the expeditionary force. But they copied this exact plan, the Skiffle plan, in World War II. In the Battle of the Bulge, they just repeated the pincer movement and the invasion of France, actually. They came through the Ardennes forest. They keep repeating the battle plans. It's like everyone just like, hey. But these are massive tunnel systems with trains going through the Maginot Line, where the French will quite happily sit on trains and go off to giant barracks, which hold thousands and thousands and thousands of men under the hillside. So they had to dig all that out. I've been looking at these things for quite some time, and I've done a lot of First World War visits myself in my youth. I was properly, I was going to say obsessed, but really interested in the events of the First World War, the feelings you get there, and the amount of casualties daily. It just boggles the mind. So, what if they were digging, and this was the biggest excavation in human history? Here's the German lines, the Hindenburg line. What you notice with the Hindenburg line, just try and imagine this if you can. Not too much, though, because it's quite frightening to think that young men and over 2 million British people went to these trenches. And almost 1 million never returned, and 1 million horses as well. So let's not forget the animals that suffered. So you can see the zigzag affair, okay, of the trenches, yeah, which is a way of, if you were shooting down a trench, it wouldn't hit all of the soldiers. So you can duck out of the way, they say, but it looks very Star 40. And what you see is lines here, guys. You can see these little white dots. These are lines of troops that have come out of their trenches in waves, and there's no evidence of a creeping barrage. So I guess most of them will be mowed down by machine guns in no man's land. Once you went up above the parapet of the trenches, it was an entire other universe. And here they go. The whistle blows. Now, let's just think about the worst day in British military history. This happened on the 1st of July, 1916, at 7:30 in the morning. The British and the Commonwealth forces are all in their trenches waiting for 0 hour at 7:30. There are millions of men waiting. This is the biggest offensive in military history. The British have been pounding the German lines for 2 weeks straight with millions of shells. The British High Command have assured all of the troops that not even a rat will stir over in the German lines, and everything will be tickety-boo. They went upon the parapet, they waited, and then a boom. The biggest boom that had ever been heard. The explosion of 40 to 50,000 tons of amatol explosives that are jammed, dug in, massive tunnel systems dug by Australian and British miners, Welsh miners, into the side of the Messini Ridge. Messini Ridge explodes. 10,000 Germans are instantly vaporized. I think on Messini's Ridge inside it, they were blasting whatever was inside. It makes no sense. All that preparation, all of that digging just to put their minds under that one section of the ridge. So it started like that, and it was the biggest non-nuclear explosion in military history. The windows in London shook with the force of this explosion that created what is regarded as the Loch Nagar crater. So the Germans, these are French though, but if you can imagine, they're waiting, and they'd been in their bunkers deep underground. They weren't worried about the shells that were pounding. They knew they were safe. The German trenches were well equipped as well. So they waited for what they proposed to be 0 hour, and they came out of their trenches and manned their machine guns and their grenade launchers, etc. And then the whistle blew. At 7:30, all of the troops climbed the parapet and went over the top. Unfortunately, it ended up the biggest loss in British military history, because by 11 o'clock in the morning, 57,000 casualties, more than 20,000 dead by 11 o'clock in the morning. It was a total failure. None of the trenches that were needed to be taken got taken, and there was just a mass loss of humanity, many of which are missing in action. It was the bloodiest day, like I said, in British military history. And what you see here is a young German soldier, probably only about 17. They joined at 15 and lied about their age. They didn't check too much in the Edwardian days. His eyes have to be noted. I know they were on a lot of different drugs in the war, and alcohol, Pervitin and brandy and whatever to give him courage. But he has got what's called the 1,000-mile stare. He's seen more than all of us put together, unfortunately. So millions of men are in a place called the Zone of Armies. Now, the Zone of Armies is a highly controlled place, literally with borders. You can't just mosey into the Zone of Armies. And all information that comes out of the Zone of Armies, like letters home to your wife, they're censored. You can't say too much about what's going on over here. And even I've got a lot of World War One history books from the very year of, I got one from 1914, 15, 16. I got one year missing, but they are highly censored. You don't see any live battle shots, hardly any dead people. It's just this sort of thing. So yeah, everyone had to keep digging, because as soon as it rained, which it does a lot, this stuff turned into a quagmire. The place is overrun with rats. Everybody's riddled with lice. Food is scarce. You have to look after yourself just to survive. The men on the front line can only be there a month or so, and they're brought back to the rear because no man can take it. A new phenomenon arrives on the battlefield: shell shock, complete breakdown of the central nervous system caused by bombardments. Imagine being in a bunker and bombs, the loudest explosions ever, landing above your head. Even the rats are panicking. And, you know, if you want to match what that's like, watch the film All Quiet on the Western Front, 1933, which all of the extras were people out of the First World War. Apparently, in the making of the film, some got carried away and thought they were still in the trenches and got a bit feisty. The villages and the towns, all ancient places of old France and old Lowlands and Belgium and Flanders, ancient places, were completely decimated. Forests as well. So yeah, technology took a quantum leap from the Victorian era to giant, massive battleships called juggernauts. Oh, bugger! Excuse me. Hello? Hello? I can't do nothing about that. Very, very sorry. My phone just went off. Okay, First World War tanks. The Mark 1 tank. You're sat snuggy in there. You've got big cannons, big machine guns. Maybe I'll try and edit that out later. I don't know. I'm very sorry. Life goes on, you know, when you're making posts. There it is, the Lotnagar crater, the biggest non-nuclear explosion in history. And there it is exploding just before everyone goes over the top in the First World War, in first day of the Battle of the Somme. You can see footage of this actually happening. They recorded it with film. So if you watch old people that survived, like Harry Patch, for example, that survived 3 times over the top, and he talked about his hellish experiences, and he said none of it made any sense. He said all that was going on every day was wholesale murder of millions of people. And he said that the generals would, you'd think, making foolhardy decisions, but no, that's exactly what they were supposed to do. Well, we're never going to survive. They got machine guns and we're all going to get mowed down and died. Yes, that's true, but then we can bring in reserves and they will cover you. So is the nature of trench warfare. It's like, well, everyone's going to die. It's like, well, learn to duck. Dive in a shell hole, which is what a lot of people actually were forced to do, dive in shell holes. So, yeah, under the trenches of the First World War. Excuse me, let me just scroll up a little bit. So, yeah, extensive digs. As you can see, they did a bit of that mining business and moved hills, which I found fascinating, almost like moving mountains. So imagine if they did find something under there. Because everything just quantum leaped after this period, guys, from Edwardian to all of it. Every technology, the Second World War and after, all from this period. Just keep them digging, keep them digging. Don't worry about all of the casualties. That doesn't matter. So what we're witnessing here, this is the Battle of Passchendaele. That's probably one of the worst places you want to find yourself because it rained a lot and it got deep mud and massive casualties, a massive attrition rate. Concerning the Battle of the Somme, all of that battle that failed rolled on to November the 18th. From 1st of July to November the 18th, just daily tens of thousands getting killed. And all that was managed to gain was 8 miles. all had death for 8 miles. So it makes no sense. This was just meant to stay as an attrition war. And they didn't really want any. Germany were in a good state when the war ended on a very curious date, the 11th, 11 o'clock on the 11th of November. So 11/11, 1918, 11/11. So they choose the sacred geometric number. So life in the trenches, yeah. So they had to stay in here constantly. Any second could get killed with gas attacks. The first time they used chemical weapons, they say, chlorine gas and mustard gas, two decidedly deadly chemical agents. But it doesn't matter because later they will water down the mustard gas and they will say that they are going to cure you with it. So, yeah, man, imagine going over the top, the whistle blowing, and whew. You see a lot of camaraderie, though, between the British and the Germans. They seem to be helping one another. They're not going crazy on one another and upsetting one another or slapping them about or anything. It seems to be, we'll help you, you help us. So the prisoners as well, they were literally, Germany had a really bad day and lost 1 million men in the prison camps, and whatever happened to them, one can only wonder. There's the king. He's up on the top there, but I'm guessing he's miles and miles away from any front lines because they're not going to put the king in the front lines so a shell can't hit him. So it's look after yourself. As long as you haven't peed in that helmet, you can cook in it. And this is life on the front line. They didn't have too good of food. The Germans had sausages and Wiener Schnitzel, etc., all yummy stuff. And the British had corned beef, bully beef, stinky old corned beef that would melt in the summer sun and turn into liquid. Yeah, liquid corned beef. So, yeah, the Battle of the Somme. What a terrible thing to have happened to humanity and all of them men. So the fact of the First World War, nothing defines the First World War more than this: mud and digging trenches. Of course, the casualties, but it's all about digging in. At the end of the war, the armistice was called. The Germans, they were in a good place, actually, in the ends and the battles of St. Quentin Canal, etc. And the Germans were still in a good place. They hadn't been beaten and they were still building up in the back, getting more forward. So they could have gone on years more. This could have been years more attrition. But a deal was done. And the Germans felt after, the Treaty of Versailles that they'd been sold down the river, the entire country. And then, after they had such a brave battles and stuff and did so well, thrown to the lions, so to speak. Hyperinflation coming and then everything else that happened coming up to World War II. So I have encountered some of these people myself. I'm old enough. These probably had a jab in the arm to keep them out of pain because they used morphine on the battlefield for the first time. There was Mr. Williams. He was an old First World War guy I used to talk to. He used to tell me little bits. And we used to go up to Hague Place where all the old soldiers with one arm and one leg used to live when we were little kids. And they were from the Great War. It was amazing. And an old guy once, when I was working on a building, I fixed his toilet and he was in the trenches. And that house on Romney Road that accidentally burned down once, they had all like amazing photographs of First World War and stuff. Now, I know you're thinking, what did he just say? That wasn't my fault and all got sorted. But you don't have a bonfire in the garden in the middle of the fucking summer. That's just stupid. I was just doing as the boss bequested. It's not my fault. It all went up. Here we go. Before they go into the trenches, the look of doom, because he's thinking there, these are the Irish Rifles, 1st of July. So there's probably a good guarantee that all of these here are dead. And these all come from the same village. They're Pal's regiment. That's it. They were friends when they grew up. And you can see that they even look alike. But they are the Irish Rifles. This guy here, that look of doom, is because he knows instinctively by his stomach in knots that this is going to hurt. So, yeah, they sung songs. It's a long way to Tipperary. And they sung, we're here because we're here because we're here because we don't know why. So yeah, heavy artillery. So, you know, just the weapons brought in against bone and flesh were ridiculous. Heavy artillery and tanks and machine guns for human beings is just like hitting a gnat with a baseball bat. It really is. It's just over the top. Here's the billets belonging to the Anzacs. They had a bit of a bad show as well. Another failed campaign, Gallipoli. That was a disaster because of the topography. There's no way they could have fought the Turks on their own lands with all bumpy bits and hills on the Gallipoli Peninsula. But they did a sort of deal, and they were all right, the Turks, about it. They're like, listen, just sneak off in the middle of the night. We're going to stop killing you all because, listen, there's not going to be any of you left and you can't win this. Churchill's stupid idea. And then he goes and sends a load of Aussies to their death. Thanks, Churchill. Notice it wasn't you. And here you can see a mincing beef. So they're going to have corned beef. And they're going to have corned beef sandwiches and corned beef. So digging in. So they dug massive excavations, guys. And I'm not exaggerating in my title, this is the biggest excavation in human history, unless you can think of anywhere else that is thousands and thousands of miles of tunnels like this, with millions of men taking part in for over a 4-year period, guys. And even before, because the preparations before were the Hindenburg and Maginot lines and other lines as well. But look, the French and the miners as well brought in from all over the world to remove all of this. It's incredible, isn't it? I think they found stuff. The antiquity of this area we'll look at in a minute. It is just out of this world antiquity, and it's all that old world stuff. So I'm guessing these are maybe Scots or Northumberlanders or along them sort of places, because some of them got kilts on, as you can see, with shorts. And I'm sure they had a great war. Some had a great war, because there's a song, oh, what a lovely war. Da, 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 da. And as you can see, it's not too bad. I don't think they're going to be tortured for their serial number or any secrets, you know. He's actually smiling, probably just exchanged some cigarettes and got a bit of a pumpernickel. And a good old jolly talk with their cousins, because the English and the Germans are actually the same, Anglo-Saxons, as far as I know. Saxony's in Germany. So compare Britain to the old days to now. Now, this wouldn't actually be allowed, and they probably get booed as well, but it wouldn't be allowed in the modern day. It upset way too many sections of society to do any pomp and ceremony like we used to, with all that flag waving and God Save the Queen that they used to do. Everyone in the country was in on it, guys. It was like a massive, crazy cult, a bit like the Nazis in World War II, with flag waving. We won the war, yeah, fuck you all. And after that, for hubris out of the window, we thought we were chocolate. So yeah, the chemical weapons, you protected yourself with your eyes with one of these. Not everyone had them though. And at first they treated these with urine, which doesn't stop that much. Chlorite as well. Oh no, that would be explosives. What was it? Chlorine, I think. But that was the gas. They treated these anyway, so it didn't seep through. I'd have to look at what chemical. This isn't the First World War, but another form of trench warfare was the American Civil War. They did trench warfare there, keep out of the way of the bullets, apparently. And here's a Confederate soldier with a SWAV. Why are the SWAVs, who are not from America, by the way, serving with the Confederate Army? Now, these are one gang you don't want to mess with. Yeah, Fight Club. German butchers. Look at the butcher there. Look at the size of him as well. He yields that axe and chops up steaks and pork and stuff. Look at him with the machete. I literally would not want to mess with these German butchers. Got a lady over there, nurse hanging around, and another nurse and another nurse. But look, jolly old chaps. You're going to run into that that trench with your bayonet out. Okay, I meant your knife on your gun, your bayonet, and you see like Mr. Fritz opposite you with a big smiley face, and his hands out to shake your hand. You're hardly likely to do anything calm for it. Like, oh yeah, what the fuck are we doing this for them for? Should we just have a smoke and just hang out for a bit? They'd be like, yes, that makes much more sense than actually dying for this cause, don't you think? It's like, yeah, fuck all that. So I'm sure that happened lots. Here's the doughboys, the Americans on their way back to America. A lot of them had the shock of their life going to the trenches, but they outwin the war with numbers. Wouldn't that have been terrible if that ship had gone hit by a torpedo and all that meant? But yeah, on the way back, and they are going to be like literally rock stars when they go back to America. That's not actually true. They didn't get any money and they got treated like shit. Same for the British as well. They didn't actually, they weren't heroes. A lot of them ended up with beggars, alcoholics, especially the ones from the Battle of the Somme. I remember an old guy begging with one leg when I was a kid, and he was in the Somme. 1883. Look at this, guys. It's ancient tunnels. I don't know if these are explosives. They're in boxes. Could be a cache, but under the hillside. All of these places underneath the hillside. And that one's been there a damn sight longer as well. In some old mine. Excuse me, I keep going the wrong way. And, ooh. Look at that old architecture. All the old stones have been piled up, all dressed old stones, thinking about building it back even then. But what's he got on his feet? No, it's just a bag there. So, yeah, the Tommies, the British Tommies, the British Expeditionary Force, and all of the conscripts, the PALS regiments that got called up later, all had to go and fight off in the First World War. And use a nice little tank, nice and cutchy in there with your cannons and your guns, and the ear bursting. Now, it's not a safe practice to be an artillery because you're going to be targeted, because artillery positions were targeted, and they would try and take them out. And they flash, so you can get a bearing on them as well. And watching the ordnance come in, it's easy to get a bearing on a route, on a return trajectory. It's like, just send it back on that one. Boof. So highly dangerous. Loads of artillery men got killed. This is interesting. So the British would charge an enemy trench, take it over, but the Germans were way more supplied than the British, and they go in there and there'd be all sausages on the table and Wiener Schnitzel and apple pie and whatever. And the British soldier, he would pick up a sausage and he would explode because a German sapper would have booby-trapped the trenches and they would have left food out as well. And it happens a hell of a lot. What I'm interested in is these here. I'm not actually sure what we're looking at. Can you see them? They look like ships, but they're in a field, so they're not. They're cube-like or pyramid-like with like two things on them. And lots and lots and lots of them. They could, I think they might be landmines. Haven't been put in yet, maybe. They could be landmines, yeah. Okay. I might have solved that one. And the millions of prisoners that went into these open-air camps, lots of them perished. They had to march there in the first place because food was a problem towards the end of the war because of the constant sacking of crops by armies. This is towards the end of the war when your Germans have got nice tanks going then, and you can take a ride on them. From the start of the First World War to it's quantum leap again, from the start of the First World War to the end in 1918, it's indistinguishable from the war of World War II. The hand grenades attack that they're using is really advanced. But it's all right because everyone gets buddies again soon after. Not really, because we're going to have another war in 25 years. Here's the Russians. They had a terrible time on the Eastern Front, specifically the Battle of Tannenberg and other places. But it's all right because they can do that crazy little Russian dance, which is very similar to that dance that Southerners do in America on boards. You're like, yeehaw! Not that that's a song, but you know what I mean. And the songs at the time, the French, this is French Lady. So the French had Edith Piaf. No, that was later, World War II. But she's saying, knees up, Mother Brown, knees up, Mother Brown, don't be silly, shush really, knees up, Mother Brown. Oh my, what a stupid song. Or she's singing, it's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. And other songs of the First World War, because there was a few hits at the time. Ivan Novello from Cardiff wrote a few. So here's a guy going off to war. He's going to give his sister a big fat kiss, and his mother a big fat kiss. I've never been home before from you two girls. I'm going to miss you a lot. Tongues. Oh, I don't know. So maybe I'm wrongly interpreting it, and this young girl here is actually not his sister, but his wife. Let's just hope that's the case. But that's definitely his mother, unless he's a Mormon and he's got two wives, which seems acceptable. Oh, I don't know about them two. No, me. And then a tinkle on the ivories. Everyone has a sing-song together. British and Germans alike. Yeah, they're singing Christmas carols at Christmas and any other song kicking around at the time. They haven't got the Beatles just yet, but they will. And this little dance, look at these lot. They used to do like, stage shows and stuff and entertain the troops. And wow, my God, look at these guys move. Actually, they can really move. All right, dancing looks a bit crazy. Like, look at this guy with the old knee thing that they could have done in the 1920s. He might have been the one that first did it. Wow. And there's the poor boys off over the top. I'm sure it'll be okay. You won't feel a thing. Got too many drugs inside you. Yeah, you got back. What was it like? It was all right. I made a killing. Did you? Yeah, like literally, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Oh, yeah, I think I do. So, yeah, more entertainment for the troops in the hold of a ship, a boxing match. And it's pretty fair. He's quick as lightning, this guy's full of chi energy, and he sparks him out with one go. Okay. Dear, he walked into that. Planes of the First World War boggle your minds. They went from the Kitty Hawk in like 1906, and then it's like 10 years later, they're buzzing around the First World War with machine guns fitted on them, or bombers, long-range bombers as well, came along later. Just quantum leaps of technology all at this time. But there you go, looking after them. We like the Germans, they love us, and we will beat you in football later in 1966 in the World Cup final, but that would be it for the next 1,000 years. Look forward to that. Yeah. Bobby Charlton. So, yeah, approximately 500,000 soldiers considered missing in action. And some of them just went missing, like no sign of them ever again. They said they believed to be buried, but they don't really know. Isn't that peculiar, guys? All of them men just disappeared off the face of the earth, almost like a reset. So in Belgium, this is a city I know and love, and I'm going to share these couple of pictures before I toodle off for the evening. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't. I would be really grateful. And thanks for everybody who likes and shares and comments. There's been so many. It's pretty groovy. Now we're going to look. Sorry about the phone call earlier. Something professional. Plus, I don't recognize the numbers. Check it out. So, yeah, Antwerp, everything you probably see in this picture was probably splattered since in World War II. A lot of it did, but it is beautiful old Gothic-y type architecture. And I've docked right up in the centre of Antwerp as well. Many times I've been in Antwerp. And then we go off down the Skipper Strat, but I can't tell you what happens down there on YouTube. But when you're a young sailor, you need to wash the sea off your chest. So I always found in Belgium that it was like they didn't do naughty people. I noticed they didn't do any misbehaviors or naughty people. Everyone was really well behaved. They were in disgust of British people, actually. Yeah, they were. Why are you all so loud and stupid? We don't know. It's our upbringing, council estates and stuff. It's like, you're really terrible. Can you not stand so close to me? It's like, yeah, all right, don't worry about it. So there's all that going on. But I found them, really lovely, but incredibly boring. I'm sure they got gangsters and misbehaviors and stuff, but when you're a young man. So look at the Phoenician stuff on here and all the Antiquitech on the ceiling. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. On the roof. That's a chunk, isn't it? So we've got 3 people. Let's see if we can find many people in the city of Antwerpen. Wonderful old, wonderful Antwerpen. Oh, yeah, there's plenty. There's 2 there. There's 3 down there. There's 1 there. It's a quiet day. What time is it? The sun is coming that way. So what are we looking at? 11 o'clock, just coming up to midday, I would say. 11 o'clock, because lampposts are great sundials. There's nothing opposite, really, is there? There's a star fort across the water. We'll see in a moment, because all of this is surrounded by a juicy star fort. But they got a lot of this old German-style architecture. Look at this. Cross Jesus. Really, really lovely old worldly stuff. So, yeah, these are pretty early photographs. Some of these, the colorized ones, are obviously altered. So, yeah, some cargo. They're standing on there, a couple of people. And they're bringing it in on the trains and then taking it off, which is awesome. Some bales there. So, yeah, huge port. It takes ages to get up the canal to Antwerp. And then as a pilot from Antwerp, they've got to take you in and they charges you like, I don't know, $70,000 or something, just take you in. It's the biggest scam in the world, the old pilots thing. But they know the waterway and, they got to do it. So you've got no choice. Because if you're at anything, big trouble. Interesting little onion dome. So yeah, when I was doing my efficient deckhands certificate, my EDH certificate, I had to go do helmsman. So it was like, I think it was 18 hours straight or something, but I did it in increments. But I literally steered a ship past massive ships, only like, guys, I'm not joking, 20 foot away. I shit myself. You do not want to get that wrong with steering and actually steer into it. So yeah, but I was good, and the pilot was on board as well when I was on the helm. So I was rather happy that I didn't hit any ships and kill everyone. Not that time. So I think at sea I save people's lives more than I actually risk them. So there's that. 1567, illumination of Rubens. Oh, we love a bit of Rubens. It's one of my favorites. Loves my Rubens and Van Eyck picks. And he done some really juicy tapestries as well. The old Rubens. Look at that. Look at that beautiful stuff. It's very Moorish, isn't it? But they got the church thing going on here. Very Phoenician feeling. Very, very beautiful. The size of that bugger. So yeah, I've got a couple of posts lined up for you guys. I recorded a video twice last night, and for some reason it didn't. There's a new configuration on this StreamYard that I'm using, and it's stupid. They literally broke it. I noticed loads of other feeds as well having the same trouble with it. Really stupid when they do things like that. So Antiquitech offer aesthetic pleasing. There's little figurines all over it. Look. Oh, look. Oh, beautiful. Little figurines. Okay. And there's one of the insides of their house. Look at all of the panelings. It's so much better than now. And these beds as well, these 4 posters. See these covers? They come down. They used to treat these. And these can block electromagnetic radiation. I think they're like Faraday cages from post-apocalyptic high EM after an event. So this one's from 1859, it says. But this statue's new, isn't it? Or is it just shining in the sun? Is this aluminium or stainless steel? This is. And what's the chains? Why are they chaining them down? Chaining this castle down so it doesn't take off. It's moored. It's a flying castle. So that's an engraving, but showing you some religious people. And when they walk past, you have to bite the dust. Bite the dust. We are religious people. So yeah, that's the way it was back then. And it still is now for some people. Bite the dust. I'm your boss. and Boss cult member. So this is interesting. Look at that lower window and a thing down there. So that's a covering for a shaft that goes under the building. Beautiful ivy, which takes ages, some of that ivy, to establish, you know. Oh, very beautiful. Friendly old fish by the sea. It's like Copenhagen. It's a huge port. It's like Europort's probably one of the biggest in the world in Rotterdam. But Antwerp's up there, man. It's massive. Hamburg's massive too. Antwerp's massive. Massive docks. Really impressive engineering going on there too. Oh, look at that thing. Not too many people around in these though, is there, guys? You don't see loads of traffic, like no traffic. What are we looking at there? Earlier? Okay. I don't know. Beautiful big building though. It looks top heavy as well, like the rest of it's not really there. And that's the railway station, which I've been in many times because back in the day, used to have to get on the train to go up to Rotterdam to go and visit their coffee shops and then jump back on the train back to Rotterdam, back to Antwerp. Did that quite a few times. So it's the nature of merchant navy life back in the day. And look at the Anders, they call it, the Anvers. So, yeah, Antwerp Starfort was a bit of a juicy Starfort. They had it on both sides of the river as well. And these, like Dutch merchants' houses, they used to charge people on frontal rent so they could build them back as far as they wanted, and up quite high. But, you know, they kept the fronts very, very narrow. And that's why these merchant houses look like that. Fitted out with Technasmia and all of this beautiful architecture on there. Absolutely stunning. And that cathedral there, the Antwerp Cathedral, you can see that from so many miles away. It's a flat earth anomaly. People say you can see it from like 50 miles out into the North Sea and stuff. So, nice fountain. We got a mag up of that. Yeah, we have. So, obviously no trams, just horse-drawn carriages, barrels of ale, because they do really nice lager. Like Stella Artois is not my favourite. Too much chemicals, it gives me a headache. But they do nice lager in Belgium, and they do nice cakes as well, and they do nice everything, really. It's all lovely in Belgium. And they cheap fags. They do cheap cigarettes. Fags are cigarettes, for people who are wondering. So there it is back in the day. Massive Starfort system. All of the juices inside, and they've got a little tiny Starfort over across the river, which is possibly the Rhine. No, is it the Maas? I'll have to look at that. I think it is though. So, what's the biggest river in France? I guess many would say the same, but I think it's the Loire. You can actually get on the Loire on a barge, and you can, by the via canals, you go all the way from the Bay of Biscay to the Mediterranean, right the way through France. Did you know that? Yes, I've been right down the Loire, quite a long way down. Oh, it's very beautiful. The chateaus. But Europe is not beautiful the way it was. It's lost its luster. It's lost its glint. I think this is a copy reality. I think they copy and pasted it. I think the NPCs that are everywhere, these people, I think they're copy and pasted in and not maybe clones at all. And, you know, just like you would copy and paste into a computer, I think that's what's going on. I'll talk about that much more length on my next post very soon. So that's been me for today. Just to recap, I think that this was, it was the biggest excavation of mud in human history. The trenches of the Western Front in the First World War, were they looking for technology? There's a lot of places that are stone and locations under there. I'm putting it out there. Make sure to comment, like and subscribe. I will be back very, very soon. Much love.